After his own success as an entrepreneur, starting technology-based businesses in the travel, financial services, specialty retail, and payment processing industries, David Fialkow co-founded one of the most successful venture firms, General Catalyst, which is based in Cambridge and New York. So he knows a lot.
And Palo Alto.
And Palo Alto. All
Never
right.
forget about our friends who are still sleeping.
All right. So he knows a lot about the venture business. He's also evaluated CEOs during his career. And so thank you for joining us today, David.
Thank you for having me, John.
So let's begin in talking about the qualities that you look for in a CEO.
So to begin with, this is an art form. It's not a science. So when you're trying to pick a CEO, let's divide them into three areas. One, founder CEOs, meaning folks that actually start businesses. The second are CEOs who get brought into companies. Okay, and maybe I can make that distinction. I spend most of my time with founder CEOs, folks that actually start businesses. And contrary to what people think, the most successful founder CEOs are first-time CEOs. If you looked at many of the major tech companies, from Google to Facebook to Apple, just you pick your top companies, Microsoft, they're always started by first-time tech founders. And as you move into even today, over the last 10 or 15 years, some of the greatest companies built, most of them are started by first-time founders. And the reason for that, quite simply, is this. The trait that you look for is not pattern recognition. And it's not even experience of being a leader. It's somebody that truly is focused on a product, cares an unbelievable amount about building something great that people want to use. And that normally comes from people who don't think of themselves as CEOs. They think of themselves as somebody building a product or a solution. And they want very badly to bring that product to market. And because of that, they're myopically focused on the user experience or the use of that product. And in order to do that, they don't look at boundaries the way the traditional CEOs or managers do. They're not unglued by somebody telling them they can't do it. They don't look at it as a problem that the obstacles in their way look insurmountable. Instead, what they say is, darn it, I'm going to do whatever it takes to build that company and build that product. And very often, they don't think about it in terms of a company. They think about it as, I want this cool shit to be in people's hands.
So how do those CEOs, those founder CEOs, get off track?
Well, there's an issue that we don't really worry about. It doesn't matter. The screen's not on.
No.
Okay. Let me go back one step. It used to be 10 or 15 years ago, before we got into the venture business. People used to say, can that CEO scale? Can that CEO build that business as a founder, or are we going to have to replace him? And I never believed in that. And clearly time has shown that that's not the way we got to look at it. What we would look for instead is you look for people that want to go build something. And we don't worry about where they get off track. What we worry about is how far can they go to bring their product or service or idea to a marketplace. The role of partners in deals, venture capitalists, board members, advisors, mentors, is to make sure that that founder stays true as long as he or she possibly can, and bring in skills around that person so that the team gets built and that the company gets built. So instead of having a founder that has to do everything, if you have a tech founder who's really good at product, let's make sure that he or she stays and continues to do that. And let's build a team around them that has sales or service or finance or operations. So the way we think it's done today is let's back young people with a real predisposition toward young people and let them go build their products and service into a company, and we'll help them along the way to be able to.
And what kind of coaching and mentoring do you provide as a board member?
A big part of what we do is try to make sure that they stay pure to their mission, number one. Number two, they don't get overwhelmed with a lot of the details of what it takes to build a company. Hire great people around them. We look at it as kind of four distinct different pieces that we're going to play in a company. Number one is to mentor a CEO. Make sure that they have all the tools that they need to do the things that they're supposed to be doing. Number 2 is help them build a team. Number 3, a really myopic focus around the business model of a company to make sure that the company is going to be able to be built profitable, make sure it has the capital, make sure it has the business model that's going to work. And then the 4th thing, which is really relevant, is to make sure that there's a long-term strategy for the business so that great companies can stay viable for a long period of time.
What is critical in the relationship between the CEO and you as an investor or board member?
Really good question. Very often, we're going to try to invest at the inception of a company, meaning at the beginning. Very often, we help these founders hatch businesses, which is why when you walk through here, it looks like there's a lot of people that are working here. Most of them aren't General Catalyst people. Most of them are companies that are being built or started here. So what we try to do is get involved early and have founders understand that we, like them, are willing to work very hard to make sure that their dreams come true. And in order to do that, we cannot be held less accountable in our role in that business than we're holding those founders to be. So what I mean is, instead of us sitting there going, do this, do that, do this, do that, and throwing hand grenades in from the sidelines, that's not the role of what an investor or a partner should do. Instead, we all want to take a very active role early on in the inception of a business and kind of divide and conquer to make sure that that founder has the right tools to do the things that they want to do.
What kind of self-assessment should a founder do before they even begin this process to think about whether they've got the right stuff?
Let's start with what we look at and then help them to understand what they should be looking at. You want somebody, again, who is really focused around doing something they want to do and love doing. Number 2, your question. Are they willing to do what it takes to do that? They need a very clear shot at being focused on that success. So they have to have their life in order, meaning they can't have a lot of distractions. They can't be working for another company. They can't be flying around. They can't have family issues or social issues that require a ton of time. They have to be able to spend the time and energy to make this, other than their family, a top priority. Or else what's going to end up happening is they're not going to be able to be happy devoting the amount of time and energy and attention. But the bigger piece is it's a roller coaster. Everybody will say, oh, company started here, hugely successful, now it got to there. The reality is, along the way, there are 4 things that are very difficult to watch being made. Number 1 is laws. Number 2 is sausages. Number 3, because my wife used to be the producer of This Old House, is home construction. People going to homes and, oh my God, when's this house ever going to be able to move in? And your builder says, don't worry, you're moving in next week. And we've all lived through that. But the 4th one are companies. These are a mess. They're never organized. If you walk in and expect everything to be clean and neat, it's an insane amount of energy all over the place. Not everything works. Products are put to market before they're ready. We often test in market versus spending tons of time. We don't do a lot of analytics. The greatest instinct sometimes of an entrepreneur founder is that they are going to go to market or make decisions on products or people well before they have all the information. The biggest difference between PE and hedge fund people and VCs and entrepreneurs is we very often have to make decisions with a quarter of the information or less. And getting that extra information is impossible. So we have to always go to market, and our founders always have to go to market, sometimes well before we have all the answers. And you got to be able to stomach that type of roller coaster and actually love it.
David, great advice. Thank you. Much appreciated.